The classroom buzzed with mixed emotions as the teacher announced the results of the mock exam. One student had nearly achieved full marks, while others struggled, with some even scoring 0. The protagonist sat near the window, feeling the weight of the teacher's pointed remarks. Though no names were mentioned, it was clear the words were meant for the protagonist. Having arrived in this world just days ago, the protagonist was still adjusting. The mock exam had been a disaster, with unfamiliar questions about beast taming, mysterious creatures, and planetary colonization. Guessing through the test had led to a complete failure. Now, with only 21 days left until the high school entrance exam, the pressure was immense. This world was built around beast taming, a skill that determined one's future. By the age of 15, individuals had to awaken a special ability that allowed them to bond with powerful creatures. However, not everyone succeeded. Those who failed would be left behind in society, struggling to find even the most basic jobs. Determined to improve, the protagonist listened intently to the teacher, taking notes and reviewing textbooks with the same dedication once used for college exams in another life. However, the protagonist's poor academic history made success seem like an uphill battle. A deskmate, also a struggling student, leaned over, confirming that the protagonist was the one who had scored 0. Despite the failure, the protagonist remained focused, unwilling to give up. Meanwhile, rumors spread about a top student being admitted to an elite school, reminding everyone of the brutal reality. Only the strong would thrive in this world. The protagonist returned home with their mother, still feeling dazed after enduring 2 hours of scolding at school. If not for the old teacher's hunger interrupting him, the lecture might have continued even longer. Trying to clear their mind, the protagonist washed their face multiple times, staring at their reflection in the mirror. Their face looked young, carrying traces of baby fat, yet eerily similar to the one they remembered from before. Their mother's voice called from the living room, reminding them to eat. As they sat down, their mother mentioned having to reheat the food due to the delay. Despite her stern tone, the protagonist recognized her mother's strength. She had endured the scolding alongside them without lashing out. Their family situation was complicated. Their parents had divorced when they were 3, and their father had remarried, having another child. Though he left the protagonist and their mother with a house and some security, their mother had raised them alone, working as a beast tamer. Her loyal companions, a faithful owl and a fat dove, helped her earn a living, providing aerial tours. While eating, their mother suddenly announced that they would visit the beast taming center the next day for a checkup. The protagonist was surprised that she believed in their self-awakening. But when asked why she let them endure the teacher's scolding, her eerie smile made it clear. Awakening was one thing, but scoring 0 on a test was another. The next morning, they arrived at the beast taming center. After an exhilarating flight on the fat dove, they followed their mother inside and completed the registration for a brain domain test. A small, plant-type creature led them through the facility. The protagonist noticed their mother's calm expression, though her eyes betrayed her anticipation. Now, everything depended on the test result. The protagonist rubbed the back of their head, confused by their mother's sudden hit. She was frustrated, wondering why they seemed disappointed despite successfully awakening their abilities. The protagonist explained that the examiner had told them to rest due to strong brain domain fluctuations, but with only 20 days left before the exam, they worried about falling behind in their studies. Their mother remained speechless, her stern demeanor momentarily absent. At home, the protagonists locked themselves in their room, ignoring plans to visit the pet beast base that afternoon. Choosing a pet beast was a crucial decision since beast tamers could usually contract only one in their lifetime. The rankings of beast tamers, from F to SSS, determined their strength and status. To rise from F to E rank, one needed to develop their brain domain by 10%, contract a second beast, and cultivate 2 mid-level beasts through evolution. Additionally, they had to win a one-on-one battle under the Beast Tamer Alliance's supervision. Many aspiring beast tamers rushed to contract their first beast without proper research. The protagonist, determined not to make the same mistake, decided to gather information first. Logging into a forum, they browsed discussions about pet beasts. Some posts warned about weak but fast-evolving insect-type creatures, while others debated over the best beginner beast. One post, however, caught their attention, a newbie asking if they should contract a dragon-type beast. The protagonist found it absurd, knowing dragon-type beasts were rare, expensive, and difficult to raise. Yet, deep down, the thought of contracting one wasn't entirely unappealing. Shaking off distractions, they continued researching, determined to make the right choice for their future as a beast tamer. The protagonist's mother hesitated, questioning whether the firefang dog was too aggressive. For beginners, temperament was a crucial factor in choosing a beast, as handling a temperamental one could be risky. She recalled an incident where a boy contracted a fire sparrow, which rejected him so strongly that his brain was damaged. Despite this, the protagonist was confident in their ability, believing that not all firefang dogs were the same. They insisted it was the right choice, considering its power and potential. The next morning, the protagonist's mother woke them early, urging them to get ready. They quickly ate breakfast and arrived at the Hangang Pet Center as it opened. Since it was early, there were no crowds, and they were immediately greeted by a staff member. The protagonist's mother stated their intent to purchase a firefang dog, and the staff member led them to the designated area while explaining the available options. Among the 27 dogs, some were close to evolving, while others had already mastered powerful skills. As they arrived, a sudden explosion of flames startled the protagonist. 2 firefang dogs were locked in a fierce battle, their teeth burning with fire. The staff explained that they constantly fought to prove their strength. Nearby, another firefang dog had launched an attack, and the protagonist learned it was part of a rivalry over a female. Strangely, the female dog, instead of choosing a mate, was excitedly cheering for the fight. The protagonist was momentarily speechless but refocused on selecting a suitable firefang dog. The staff noticed the protagonist's uniform and correctly guessed they were a self-awakened beast master. Their mother looked proud, but the protagonist remained focused on their goal. The protagonist watched as the woman tried to act calm, but her slight misstep while asking for directions made it obvious she was flustered. Holding back amusement, the protagonist shifted focus to the firefang dogs, observing their high energy and restless nature. Realizing that these creatures were not ideal for beginners, the protagonist asked if there were any with a quieter temperament. The staff member subtly suggested looking at other pets, but the protagonist insisted on choosing from the firefang dogs. A particular one stood out, smaller than the rest and repeatedly ramming into a tree with determination. Instead of reckless behavior, the protagonist sensed purpose in its actions and asked to see it. The staff member blew a whistle, instantly halting all the firefang dogs. The chosen one, looking confused, was brought forward. With bright red fur, black stripes, and a tuft of orange fur, it had a bruise from its training attempts. Unlike its aggressive counterparts, it seemed vulnerable, sparking the protagonist's curiosity. The staff member explained that this firefang dog was the youngest, only a month old. The protagonist, relieved that its apparent weakness was due to youth rather than poor health, gently petted it. Surprisingly, the firefang dog wagged its tail contentedly. The protagonist, growing fond of it, asked if it would come along. Though the staff member hesitated, knowing its true mischievous nature, the firefang dog eagerly extended its paw, sealing an unspoken agreement. With the contract ritual beginning, the protagonist activated the Beast Mastery Codex. As the single page of the codex awakened, a white light formed above the firefang dog's head, signaling the beginning of their bond. The protagonist watched as the firefang dog vanished into a glowing formation, and suddenly, new information appeared in the codex in their mind. It displayed detailed stats of the firefang dog, including its level, skills, and progress. This unexpected discovery left the protagonist stunned, as the codex was only supposed to store contracted beasts, not provide such advanced insights. Unsure whether this was a hidden ability, the protagonist decided to test it out by summoning the firefang dog. A white star formation appeared, and the firefang dog emerged, wagging its tail excitedly. It seemed to enjoy going in and out of the codex, barking each time it returned, eager to repeat the process. Amused yet slightly overwhelmed, the protagonist continued summoning and recalling the firefang dog until their mother arrived, questioning what they were doing. With a straight face, the protagonist simply replied, "I'm playing." After leaving the pet beast base, the protagonist made a stop at the Beastmaster Center, as all contracted beasts had to be registered within a set time. Failure to do so would classify them as wild creatures, leading to serious consequences. The mother went ahead on her faithful owl, leaving the protagonist with a fat dove for transport. Upon arrival, they noticed the center was closing soon, but managed to get a ticket just in time. When their turn came, the staff informed them that they couldn't register their beast without first registering as a beast master. However, this required brain domain certification, which the protagonist didn't have with them. Frustrated, they tried to argue, but a girl in a Union Beastmaster uniform impatiently interrupted, making the situation even more difficult. The protagonist had barely taken a step before a young girl blocked the way, frustration clear in her voice. She accused the protagonist of moving too fast, causing her to miss her turn. The protagonist, unimpressed, ignored her, but the girl refused to let things go. She insisted on a fight, challenging the protagonist to a duel. The two moved to an open training area, where others were practicing with their beasts. The protagonist suggested finding a more private location, but the girl mocked them, asking if they were scared. Amused, the protagonist agreed to fight there. However, as soon as the girl prepared, the protagonist swiftly aimed a kick at her face. The girl barely dodged, shocked at the unexpected attack. She quickly clarified that beastmasters fought using their pets, not hand-to-hand combat. The protagonist, unfazed, admitted they weren't officially a beastmaster yet. The girl then summoned her pet, a newly evolved desert-tailed fox, confident in its strength. Knowing that their own firefang dog was too young and untrained, the protagonist instead chose the fat dove for the fight. Smirking, the girl commanded her desert-tailed fox to use quicksand. Just as the fat dove was about to take flight, a red blur shot across the field, interrupting the attack. It was the firefang dog. The protagonist blinked in surprise as the unexpected turn of events unfolded. The protagonist faced a tense battle, commanding the firefang dog and the fat dove against a skilled opponent. The firefang dog, despite its fiery nature, quickly bonded with the protagonist, following commands with determination. The battle began without hesitation, with the protagonist ordering the firefang dog to charge. The opponent, controlling the desert-tailed fox, attempted to counter by using its long tail, but the protagonist acted swiftly. The fat dove grabbed the firefang dog and lifted it into the air, confusing both the opponent and the firefang dog itself. At the protagonist's command, the fat dove released the firefang dog from above, aiming for a direct strike. Though the execution was slightly delayed, it still caught the opponent off guard. With no immediate reaction from the desert-tailed fox, the protagonist seized the opportunity, instructing the firefang dog to bite its vulnerable neck. The opponent realized the danger too late. The firefang dog's blazing teeth sank into the desert-tailed fox, causing it to writhe in pain. Desperate, the opponent ordered the fox to defend itself, but its own tail struck it instead, worsening its condition. The protagonist then ordered a final attack. The fat dove, although unfamiliar with wing slash, executed an air slash instead, sending sharp blades of wind at the weakened desert-tailed fox. Despite its attempt to dodge, multiple strikes landed, leaving it barely standing. The firefang dog delivered the finishing blow, charging with full force and knocking the opponent's beast unconscious. The opponent, in disbelief, fell to the ground, overwhelmed by the swift defeat. She had lost without even managing to use a single skill. The protagonist's tactical skills had completely outmatched her, leaving her shaken and humiliated. The protagonist observed how inherited skills worked in beast taming, realizing that abilities like firefang were natural but required time to develop. Normally, a young beast wouldn't be able to use such a skill instantly, yet the firefang dog did, sparking curiosity. While pondering this, the protagonist noticed an injured desert-tailed fox nearby and quickly contacted the emergency center. Learning that help was already on the way, the protagonist turned to leave with the firefang dog but found a growing crowd watching the scene, some even taking photos. Wanting to avoid attention, the protagonist hurried away, but a few people approached with different requests, one inviting them to become a streamer, another challenging them to a beast battle, and a curious woman asking about their school. Ignoring them, the protagonist returned home, finding a bag of red all fruits on the table. These fruits were known to strengthen fire-type creatures, but they were expensive and not meant for daily consumption. Deciding to test their effect, the protagonist fed one to the firefang dog. The beast hesitated but quickly devoured it, clearly enjoying the taste. Checking the beast tamer's codex, the protagonist saw no immediate changes. Suspecting the effect took time, they fed it another fruit. After eating two, a slight improvement appeared in the beast's stats, confirming the theory. However, further attempts showed that it required exactly 2 red all fruits to increase a single point in its level. With the remaining points available, the protagonist decided to invest them all in the firefang dog's growth, watching as its stats significantly improved. Realizing the potential of the fruit, excitement filled their mind. This discovery could change their approach to beast training entirely. The protagonist received a flood of messages from a concerned friend, wondering why they hadn't been to school. After some teasing exchanges, the protagonist revealed their recent self-awakening, which was met with disbelief. To prove it, they sent a photo of their certification, leaving the other person speechless. Later, the protagonist took care of their companion creature, ensuring it was well-fed before preparing a simple meal for themselves. As they ate, they noticed their beast partner, a firefang dog, curled up in deep sleep on the sofa. Originally planning to visit the Beast Tamer Center, the protagonist decided against it, not wanting to disturb their companion. Instead, they grabbed a book on extraordinary creatures and settled in to read. While studying, they realized the high school entrance exams weren't as simple as expected. The self-awakened gained additional points based on brain domain development, but their academic record was far from impressive. The protagonist explored options for entering a Beast Tamer high school, including recommendations and special admissions. However, given their poor grades, a recommendation seemed unlikely, leaving special admission as the only viable path. Even then, passing the entrance exam was unavoidable. As evening approached, the protagonist heard excited barking. Their firefang dog leaped into their arms, eager for attention. They settled on the sofa to watch TV, joined by their other companion, Fat Dove. The firefang dog, unfamiliar with the moving images, was fascinated by the screen. The protagonist flipped through channels, mostly filled with reports on beast tamers and competitions. One featured a strong thunderhorn rhinoceros crackling with energy, hinting at the challenges that awaited those entering this extraordinary world. The protagonist found themselves facing their mother's stern gaze after returning home to a chaotic living room. A mischievous pet had knocked over the television, and the protagonist attempted to shift the blame, but their mother quickly decided on a punishment, deducting the cost of the TV from their allowance. Though reluctant, the protagonist had no choice but to accept the decision. As the conversation shifted, the mother brought up an unexpected topic, choosing a high school. The protagonist casually mentioned a mid-tier academy, but the mother had other plans. She handed over a brochure for the top-ranked school in the region, a place known for its elite students and nearly impossible admission standards. The protagonist found the idea ridiculous, with only 19 days left before exams. But their mother's offer was tempting. Just an attempt at applying would mean no further allowance deductions. With this in mind, the protagonist signed up for both their original choice and the prestigious school. The application process was vastly different for the two. The mid-tier academy had a straightforward process, proof of independent awakening and brain development percentage adjustments to their entrance score. The elite school, however, had only 5 slots for special admissions, requiring candidates to compete in a pet beast battle. Realizing the challenge ahead, the protagonist checked their companion's abilities. The fire-type pet beast had potential, but its skills needed serious improvement. With only 12 days left before the battle, the protagonist understood that this was just the beginning of an intense journey. The weekend arrived, and the protagonist chose to stay home, turning down an invitation from a friend. Instead, they spent the time studying, occasionally stepping out to register as a Beastmaster and officially record their companion at the Beastmaster Center. Their memory had improved significantly, allowing them to retain information after a single reading. Soon, it was time to return to school. The small beast, now used to being free, resisted going back into the storage space. The protagonist tried to persuade it, offering treats, but it stubbornly refused. Only after a final warning did it reluctantly agree. On the way to school, the small beast peeked out from the protagonist's arms, enjoying the wind. Before reaching the school gates, it obediently returned to storage. Inside the classroom, students whispered, glancing at the protagonist. A friend explained that rumors had spread after their mother visited school twice, and their absence had drawn attention. Worse, everyone now knew about their score of 0 on the last exam, making them the center of gossip. The protagonist was chatting with a friend when their teacher suddenly entered the classroom, making the students go silent. The teacher announced a school-wide gathering, surprising everyone, especially since the third-year students usually didn't participate. The protagonist and their friend joined the large crowd outside, curious about the unusual assembly. On stage, the principal gave his usual speech before introducing a top student from the 3rd year. The girl was from a poor family but had managed to earn a prestigious recommendation to a top Beastmaster high school. Her success was impressive considering her background. However, some students whispered doubts about her ability to afford a pet beast. Others questioned how someone from an ordinary family could awaken as a beast master, since it was rare for non-beast master parents to have such talented children. Intrigued by the girl's speech, the protagonist found themselves making comparison. They, too, had self-awakened, and this girl's achievement made them feel a little uncertain about their own progress. Still, they quickly pushed the thoughts aside and focused on their studies after returning to the classroom. While reviewing past lessons, the protagonist worked through a history question about a past catastrophe caused by a powerful beast master. The answer was clear: an SS-level beast master had once shaken the world, leading to major losses before finally being defeated. As the protagonist pondered this, a classmate called their name, informing them that someone was waiting outside. Looking up, they saw the same girl from the stage, Dai Shushu, standing in the doorway with a smile. Everyone turned to look, curious about why such a well-known figure was seeking out the protagonist. The protagonist sat in class, deep in thought after a conversation with another student. A friend noticed the troubled expression and asked about it, but the protagonist dismissed the concern. As the school day continued, the protagonist made a bold decision and approached the teacher's office to request leave. The homeroom teacher was shocked, reminding the protagonist that the high school entrance exams were just days away. Despite this, the protagonist remained firm, stating that if leave wasn't granted, skipping class would be the only option. The teacher, exasperated, questioned whether the protagonist's family was aware of this decision, but no answer came. The conversation took a serious turn when the protagonist brought up an incident involving their mother. The protagonist reminded the teacher about how she had been forced to leave the office that day, causing distress that led to her falling ill. Acknowledging the family's difficult situation, the protagonist insisted on taking leave to care for her. The teacher, though reluctant, eventually agreed, advising the protagonist to return as soon as possible. Before leaving, the protagonist made a casual remark about the teacher's crooked wig, leaving the office in awkward silence. Later, the protagonist visited a beast-taming battle club, inquiring about hiring a sparring partner. However, the price was far too high. Struggling with limited money, the protagonist checked several other clubs, but the costs remained beyond reach. With just 10 days left before the special admission exam for Shangshui High School, the protagonist felt the weight of the challenge ahead. Despite having a backup school, determination had grown. Getting into Shangshui had become the ultimate goal. However, given the current skill level, even meeting the minimum passing score seemed uncertain. The protagonist explored various ways to train their beast but found many restrictions. Official competitions were not an option since the registration period hadn't started. Underground battles, though accessible, were dangerous and filled with ruthless fighters willing to risk everything. These matches had no strict rules, and losing could mean severe consequences. The protagonist knew this wasn't an option, as their beast was still too young to endure such brutality. Other training places, like specialized halls and clubs, had their own limitations. Training halls opened only twice a year, and clubs required money, which the protagonist lacked. Private meetups were for those with proven skills, but without experience in official matches, they weren't qualified. Even friendly battles with classmates weren't possible since none had awakened their abilities. Realizing there was no proper training ground available in the city, the protagonist felt stuck. Wandering through the streets in deep thought, they eventually decided to head home. After changing into casual clothes, they prepared a small note and grabbed their backpack before leaving again. Arriving at a local park near a well-known high school, the protagonist bought some food and fed their beast while waiting. A friendly vendor struck up a conversation, curious about the unusual creature. The protagonist answered casually, noticing how ordinary people had limited knowledge about beast taming due to their social status. After eating, the protagonist moved to a bench with a clear view of the school entrance. They taped a note to their backpack, announcing a beast battle challenge with a small fee per match. This was their best option, finding low-level beast masters at a high school to engage in controlled fights, helping their beast grow stronger while earning some money along the way. A heavy darkness filled the surroundings, creating an eerie silence. A sinister black figure floated closer, its dark red eyes locked onto the woman in white like she was prey. It had no limbs, just a head-sized body drifting in the air. Suddenly, a two-fingered hand emerged from its form, reaching straight for her heart. But as it passed through her body, It found nothing. The creature's eyes widened in shock as the woman slowly lifted her head, revealing a faceless visage on the screen. Meanwhile, the small beast in the protagonist's arms trembled, burying itself against them, refusing to watch any longer. The protagonist stroked its head, feeling slightly disappointed. As the school day ended, students poured out of the gates, their chatter filling the air. The protagonist sat quietly, reading, until a voice interrupted. A tall boy, with a thick snake wrapped around his body, approached, eyeing a challenge. But seeing the note on the protagonist's bag, only for beginner-level beasts, he clicked his tongue and walked away. However, the challenges didn't stop. Another boy, looking eager but nervous, stepped forward. He proposed a different wager. Instead of money, if he won, he would get the protagonist's contact information. Amused, the protagonist agreed, glad that money wasn't on the line. A spiky-haired boy, clearly a friend of the challenger, led them to a quieter spot in the park. As the match began, the challenger summoned a well-fed bird, a fat dove. The spiky-haired friend offered to referee, and with a nod of agreement, the battle commenced. The protagonist wasted no time, commanding the firefang dog to attack with ember. A small burst of fire shot forward, but the fat dove casually dodged. Its reflexes were impressive, hinting at specialized training. Seeing this, the protagonist issued another order, charge. The firefang dog sprinted forward, but the opponent countered, making the fat dove take to the air and use growl. The sound threw the firefang dog off for a moment, slowing its advance. Capitalizing on the moment, the challenger ordered an aerial strike. The fat dove folded its wings, using the wind to dive at incredible speed toward its target. Instinct urged the firefang dog to move, but the protagonist's voice rang out, "Don't move!" The spectators were stunned. A fire-type beast, known for its stubborn and wild nature, was obeying without hesitation. Such control was rare. Just before impact, the protagonist gave the next command, "Jump." At the perfect moment, the firefang dog sprang upward, landing directly on the fat dove's back. The challenger was caught completely off guard. Seizing the opportunity, the protagonist ordered an attack on the wings. Without hesitation, the firefang dog bit down hard, its fiery fangs sinking into the fat dove. The fat dove let out a painful cry as it crashed to the ground. The firefang dog gracefully landed beside it, awaiting the final command. "Finish it, Ember." A small flame shot forward, sealing the fight. The fat dove let out a weak cry before falling unconscious. Silence settled over the scene. After a moment, the referee broke the tension, asking for the protagonist's name. Hearing the response, he announced the victory. Meanwhile, the challenger, still stunned, recalled his fallen beast. He couldn't hide his curiosity, stepping forward to ask how the protagonist had timed the jump so perfectly. His expression was conflicted. This battle had shown a level of skill and coordination far beyond what he expected. The protagonist stood silently, watching the tense exchange between the people around them. One person gave a subtle signal, hinting at something unspoken. The other, clueless, finally understood after a whispered hint. Money was involved. Hastily, a small amount was handed over, but the gesture seemed laughable. It was clear that social skills weren't this person's strong suit. Meanwhile, the young woman accepted the money with a polite smile. She had little time to waste. The after-school rush was the perfect opportunity to find more challengers. Just as she was about to leave, another stepped in her way. Instead of demanding money, they sought knowledge, the secret behind her firefang dog's impressive obedience. She simply shook her head. There was no secret, but her challenger refused to believe it. Beast training was a well-studied field, with professionals who crafted detailed plans for training extraordinary creatures. Some families even had exclusive techniques passed down through generations, ensuring their dominance in taming rare and powerful beasts. The Wei family, for example, had a method of attracting elusive creatures with special food, solidifying their reputation over centuries. Skepticism grew. There had to be something unique about her firefang dog. Unlike other creatures of its kind, which were notoriously unpredictable, hers remained perfectly calm. A memory surfaced of a student whose attempt to show off a flame armor mouse had ended in disaster. The boy had barely escaped with his hair intact, and to this day, he hid the damage beneath a hat. Yet, her firefang dog stood unwavering. Testing her claim, the skeptic hesitantly reached out. A sharp bark and a flash of teeth made them recoil instantly. Still, curiosity burned. If not a secret technique, then what was her training method? A battle was proposed. If they couldn't uncover the truth through words, they'd do so through combat. A makeshift referee stepped in, ensuring fairness. The challengers summoned their pet beast, and the protagonist found herself staring at a small, unimpressive creature, a cottonseed worm. It was rare to see one in this color, but these creatures were typically overlooked due to their weak abilities. However, its potential was undeniable. If evolved correctly, it could become something far more powerful. Despite its reputation, this cottonseed worm had proven itself in battle, even earning a respectable ranking among freshman beastmasters. The opponent's confidence wasn't without reason. For nearly a year, they had delayed its evolution, meticulously strengthening its foundation to ensure a perfect transformation. The battle began. The cottonseed worm attacked first, shooting out a silk thread at incredible speed. The firefang dog barely reacted before it was tightly bound, struggling against the threads. Surprise flashed in the protagonist's eyes. Her pet's speed needed serious improvement. Seeing an opening, the opponent pressed the advantage. The cottonseed worm launched itself forward with surprising force, glowing faintly as it accelerated. But the protagonist had been carefully observing, calculating the timing. At just the right moment, she issued a simple command, firefang. Flames erupted, consuming the battlefield in an instant. The protagonist watched as a classmate struggled with the realization that attribute suppression played a major role in battles. Despite knowing this in theory, experiencing it firsthand left him frustrated. His friend teased him for not getting contact information from an opponent, adding to his irritation. Meanwhile, the protagonist finished another battle just as a call came from home. Her mother reminded her that dinner was getting cold, prompting her to pack up and leave. However, dissatisfaction lingered in her mind. The battles had been too slow, and waiting at the school for challengers was ineffective. She needed a better strategy. Determined to improve, she reviewed her pet stats through the Beast Codex. The Fire-type companion had gained some skill points, but the distribution puzzled her. Different opponents seemed to award different amounts, making her question if weaker enemies contributed less. To test a theory, she commanded her companion to use firefang without a target. The proficiency increased, proving that skills could be trained without combat. Excited by the discovery, she pushed her pet to keep using firefang, but exhaustion hit quickly. After just a few repetitions, the little creature was drained. Realizing that stamina was a limiting factor, she calculated that with controlled training, she could significantly boost skill proficiency in a matter of days, far faster than normal. The thought of advancing so quickly filled her with ambition. If she could maximize this ability, she could dominate future competitions. Her mind raced with possibilities, but a sharp bark snapped her out of her thoughts. Looking around, she realized people were staring, likely due to her intense expression. Just then, her pet pointed toward a barbecue stand, its nose twitching at the smell. She initially resisted, reminding it of dinner at home, but those pleading eyes wore her down. They stopped by the stand, where the vendor recognized her from before. Though she only intended to buy a little, hunger won over, and soon, they were sharing a meal. As they walked home, she reminded her companion to act hungry later during dinner to avoid suspicion. The pet gave a satisfied yip, and with a full stomach and new motivation, she looked forward to the next challenge. The bus moved steadily through the city, the setting sun casting long shadows over the streets. Passengers filled the seats, and even the aisle had a few standing figures, making the ride feel crowded. The air inside buzzed with quiet conversations and the occasional chime of the automated announcement. Among the passengers, the protagonist sat with a small but fierce fire-type beast beside them. Everything seemed normal until the creature suddenly turned and barked at a girl sitting next to them. The girl, dressed in a school uniform, glanced at the beast but said nothing, shifting slightly to the side. The protagonist gently scolded their companion, reminding it not to scare people. The beast responded with a soft noise before turning its attention back to the window, seemingly calm again. However, the peace didn't last long. The beast turned once more, baring its teeth at the girl in a clear display of aggression. The sudden hostility startled her, and she instinctively moved to stand up. A man standing nearby, dressed in a gray tank top, spoke up in annoyance, telling the protagonist to control their beast. Others on the bus chimed in, complaining that the creature was untrained and could be dangerous. An older woman seated nearby insisted that the protagonist put it away. Ignoring the complaints, the protagonist focused on their beast. It had never behaved like this before, especially in a public space. Something was off. They turned the creature to face them, searching its eyes for an explanation. The beast, stubborn but loyal, hesitated before finally responding. In its own way, it communicated that something strange had appeared on the girl, something unnatural that had vanished just as quickly. The protagonist listened carefully, their expression serious. The girl, overhearing the conversation, hesitated before asking if something had truly been on her. Before the protagonist could explain further, the man in the gray tank top interrupted again, angrily accusing them of making excuses. His threat to hold them responsible if anything happened made the tension in the bus rise even further. The others echoed his demands, urging the protagonist to put their beast away. Then, another voice cut through the noise. Someone suggested that a ghost-type creature might be involved. Instantly, the bus fell silent. The thought of an eerie entity lurking among them sent a shiver through the passengers. Ghost-type creatures were known for their unpredictability. Some caused harmless mischief, but others. Whispers spread about the attached spirit, a creature that could take control of both the living and the dead. Stories of past encounters surfaced, mysterious cases where corpses had suddenly walked into police stations, guided by unseen forces. The unsettling tales left everyone uneasy. As the bus continued on its journey, tension filled the air. What exactly had the beast seen, and was whatever it had sensed truly gone?